According to recent statistics compiled by Bloomberg, Canada's unemployment rate for temporary residents, which includes foreign workers, international students, and asylum seekers, hit 11% in June. Using comparable data, the unemployment rate for all Canadian workers was just 6.2% last month. This disparity has raised some major questions about Canada's immigration numbers, which are at a record high, and the systems for approving new migrants. Economists virtually all agreed that immigration is needed for economic growth, but how exactly do we ensure that immigration is meeting that end? Joining us now to discuss the issues with Canada's immigration system and how to fix it is Siavash Shekarian, chair of the Business Immigration Committee. Thank you for joining us.
My pleasure.
Now, you've said that Canada's immigration system is broken at every level. What are these levels exactly?
Well, allow me to zoom out before I zoom in on the specifics of our immigration system. The brokenness of any system is a direct reflection of its failure to meet its intended purpose. For example, if a car doesn't drive you from point A to point B safely and efficiently, it's fair to say that the car is broken. So what's the purpose of our immigration system? Our collective wisdom and our collective vision about our immigration system is laid out clearly in Section 3 of our Immigration and Refugees Protection Act. And if we read through these 12 objectives that we laid out together, we find a simple yet very powerful vision, which is to not just facilitate, but accelerate Canada's progress into becoming the world's leading economy. Not the 32nd, not the 10th, not the 28th, the world's leading economy. And this vision also extends to putting us on the path to becoming the most influential global power, which of course needs our economy and, more importantly, our cultural richness. So we are failing on both ends. In short, if our immigration system, we have designed it and we have funded it to help us grow culturally and economically, it's not doing that. Hence the claim that our immigration system is broken. Now let's zoom in. If we want to simplify the immigration system, we can understand it having three pillars or levels. The first one is selection, who we welcome to our Canadian family. The second is administration, how we bring them to Canada. And the third is integration, how we provide them with the necessary context so they can grow and flourish, so they feel that they belong here and they want to stay and they don't want to leave.
Now, you mentioned selection. What is Canada getting wrong and how can that be fixed?
Well, here we need to zoom out a bit too. Out of all of the immigrants that we welcome into Canada, 60% are economic immigrants. And that's where we really have the power to select, because the other 40% are composed of our families, which we are sponsoring as spouses, parents, and grandparents. And the other part of that 40% is refugees and asylum seekers, which we really don't select. So the 60% of economic immigrants that we select, we're selecting them based on the objective that I just mentioned, right? We want them to come here, help us create a leading economy in Canada. And that kind of economy inherently is concerned with productivity or GDP per capita, something that the Bank of Canada labeled an emergency a while back. So if the purpose is boosting Canada's GDP per capita or productivity, then we have to prioritize candidates that are entrepreneurial, innovative, and those that have high human capital. On the entrepreneurial and innovative front, we're not doing great at all. And actually, we are failing because on the federal level, we have two programs that cater to those individuals. One is the Federal Self-Employed Program, which is currently on pause with wait times over 4 years. And then we have the Startup Visa Program, which is specifically, albeit well-designed on paper, failing in practice because it has wait lines of more than 3 years with very, very poor customer service. So that's our entrepreneurial and innovative side. And on the human capital side, we have this system called the Express Entry, which the function is bring in the sharpest and the brightest and those with the highest potential to contribute to our economy. But if you look at it, you see very obvious design flaws. For example, this system it awards points for education, but it does not distinguish between institutions. So for example, if you're a University of Toronto graduate, you get the same point value as if you're a graduate from a degree mill college with the same degree. And that's one of the small reasons why you see the discrepancies between the new landed immigrants unemployment rate and Canadian borns. And you see the alarming underutilization rates, right? For example, 50% of STEM graduated immigrants are underutilized. 60% of health educated immigrants are underutilized. That means they're doing something that they were not trained for.
We're back with Siavash Shekarian. Now, you just discussed selection, but in terms of administration, how far are we off and how do we correct this?
Well, I'm sorry to say that on administration, we're doing even worse. A good administration is really like, let's break down administration. Administration is concerned with efficiency, fairness, and system integrity. Right, let's start with efficiency. Efficiency is really simple because IRCC, that's the department in charge of helping us get to the objectives that we have for the immigration system, commissioned a report by an ex-deputy minister, Yates, which the report is clear. And I'm just going to read from it for the sake of clarity that he concludes the current organizational model at IRCC is broken, but it's being held together by the hard work and dedication of staff, which is really a very nice way of saying IRCC is broken and it's its leader's fault. So that's efficiently. And if you look at delay, for example, you find parliamentary report after parliamentary report that delay and backlog now for the system is an endemic. Now we're talking about a department that has a $5 billion budget with almost 14,000 employees. So it's not efficient. Is it fair? Not at all. If you then again go look at parliamentary report after parliamentary report, it's IRCC itself admitting that it has systemic racism. So you see differential outcome for people based on their race and ethnicity. Do we have a good system integrity? No, just you read headline after headline about files being assigned to ghost officers. You see fraud at every level of this system. We read about all of those fake admission letters for international students, fake LMIAs, work permits. So fraud is everywhere in the system. So it's fair to say that our administration is also badly broken.
And on to integration. How do we better integrate immigrants into Canadian society and our economy?
Well, that's a very, very complicated and interrelated question, right? If the integration has a lot to do with selection and administration. For example, if you have a perfectly designed program on paper, so your selection policy is okay, but in administration, you just frustrate your newcomers. They come to Canada with this feeling of resentment, which disallows them to integrate successfully into our society, right? And on the integration front, we also have a crisis. We see that people are leaving in droves. We have a statistic saying that 50% of new immigrants, they just pack up and leave. And that's really on us because if the only thing that we promise new immigrants is our economy, the moment that it's broken and the moment that it's not doing what they hoped it would do, they just say, oh, we don't belong here and we don't want to be here. So let's just go somewhere that has a better economy. So it really has to do a lot with how we market Canada and how we really provide that context of support. Right, our immigration system right now with that broken customer service administration is all about expectation, expectation, expectation. What are we doing to support these newcomers so they can flourish and help us flourish as a nation? Not enough.
And what are the consequences if our immigration systems continue to fail?
Well, dire, because let's remember, immigration for Canada is not a privilege, right? For us, it's a necessity, it's a lifeline. Almost 100% of our population comes from immigration. So it's not something that we say, oh, if we're not doing it perfectly, it's okay. We can just, lower the volume, lower the number, and we'll be fine. No, definitely not. It's the future of our country. And if we don't wake up to the realities of today and we don't start acting right now, it will have very, very dire consequence, right? Because whoever that we bring, the 2.5 million temporary residents that we have right now, the 500,000 that we take in annually, that's our future. That's future Canada. So it's not something that we can, just put under the rug.
Now, some commentators have said that our system failure runs the risk of creating hostility to immigration. What do you make of that claim?
Well, if it's left to incompetent leadership, that's the natural consequence, right? People are busy making their lives, and we just hear news bits from here and there. And if all the problems that we have in this country are put on immigration, then by nature we say, oh, it's immigration's fault. So it's our job, I as a civil society activist, you as the media, is to just, talk about this and make sure that the people can understand the real root cause of the problem. It's not immigration, is not immigrants, it's how we do it. That's the problem, and that's where we are failing.
Thank you so much for joining us today.
My pleasure.